In the heart of the wild, where life and death dance beneath the golden sun, every roar, every breath tells a story of love, courage, and survival. But sometimes, even the fiercest heart meets the cruel face of fate. This is the story of a mother lion, her cub, and a battle against nature's darkest predator. A mother lion and her cub were walking through the jungle. The golden sunlight slipped through the trees, painting their fur in shades of amber and gold. The jungle was calm, quiet, until the mother suddenly stopped. Her sharp eye caught something ahead. She stood still, muscles tense, her face focused, instincts alive and awake. Just ahead, a deer grazed peacefully, unaware of the danger, watching from the shadows. The cub crouched beside his mother, eyes wide with curiosity, learning what it meant to be a hunter. The mother looked around once, then twice, and in the blink of an eye she leapt. The deer bolted, crashing through the tall grass, fear bursting through the jungle. Behind it, the lioness charged, powerful and graceful, and the cub followed, his tiny paws thudding against the ground. The chase ended swiftly. The lioness caught the deer, her jaws closing firmly as the forest fell silent once more. Her breath came steady and deep, nature's rhythm, calm after chaos. With the deer hanging from her mouth, she began to walk, her cub following proudly beside her. But then, danger moved again. A snake, thick and silent, lay coiled on a nearby tree branch. Its tongue flicked, its eyes cold. Another predator, waiting. The lioness, unaware, began to climb the tree. The deer still clutched in her jaws. The cub climbed after her, step by step, small but fearless. They kept climbing, higher and higher, until they reached the top. And that's when it happened. From above, a massive python struck, fast and deadly. It wrapped its coils around the lioness, crushing her body with terrifying strength. The cub froze, his small eyes filled with fear. Below them, the deer slipped from the lioness's mouth, falling, crashing through branches before hitting the ground. The mother roared, loud, desperate, full of fire, struggling to break free. But the python only tightened its grip, each second stronger than the last. The jungle fell silent again, except for the sound of her struggle and the slow, dreadful hiss of the giant snake, the faint echo of a cub's scream, crying for his mother. The cub stood below the tree, helpless, his tiny voice trembling through the forest. He cried out again and again, calling for help that would not come. His mother was still trapped, her roars muffled by the python's crushing hold. The cub ran in circles, desperate, heart pounding. He didn't know what else to do. The cub turned and bolted toward the edge of the jungle. Through the tall grass, through the vines, he ran until the forest opened into a road. He stopped right in the middle, a tiny silhouette against the asphalt. A car approached fast, its headlights cutting through the dust. The cub lifted his paw, trying to stop it, his small body shaking. The driver slammed the brakes, the tires screeching. "What is this?" the man shouted. "Are you trying to get yourself killed?" But instead of stopping, the car swerved sharply, missing the cub by inches. The man's face flashed with shock, but he didn't stop. He kept driving, heart racing, while the cub watched the car rush past him, his reflection fading in its headlights. The driver looked back in disbelief, hands trembling on the wheel, trying to make sense of what he had just seen. A lion cub, standing alone on the road, crying for help. Another car came down the road, and once again, the cub stepped forward to stop it. But just like before, The driver swerved, maneuvering past the lion without stopping. The cub stumbled back, his tiny heart pounding in fear and frustration. Then out of the dust came a third car. Inside, the driver caught sight of something running toward him. A small golden cub standing right in the middle of the road. He hit the brakes, eyes wide, disbelief frozen on his face. The cub ran closer, crying out, his tiny body trembling from exhaustion. He stopped in front of the car, breathing hard, his voice breaking into helpless cries. The driver opened his door slowly and stepped out. He knelt down beside the cub, his face softening as he looked into those frightened eyes. "Hey, little guy, are you lost?" he asked gently. The cub stared up at him, eyes glistening, as if trying to understand his words. The man lowered himself further, now kneeling on the road. "Do you need help?" he whispered. The cub tilted his head, gave a small murmur, a sound that almost said, "Yes, I do." He nodded slightly, as if begging the man to follow. Without another thought, the driver rose and ran after the cub. Together, they sprinted down the road, back into the jungle, back to where the mother lion was still caught. When they arrived, the scene was heartbreaking. The massive snake still coiled around the lioness, its muscles flexing as it tried to finish what it started. The mother lion was still struggling to breathe, her roars now weak, fading, yet filled with defiance. And the python hissed, furious, its anger filling the jungle air. The python's jaws opened wide, its coils tightened, wrapping around her body like steel ropes. By the time the driver and the cub reached the spot, it was almost too late. Its enormous frame was coiled around the tree trunk, bulging with the shape of the lioness trapped inside. The cub stopped dead in his tracks, his small body trembling. The driver's eyes widened in shock. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. The man's voice broke the silence. "Oh my God," he gasped, his voice shaking. "Did that monster eat her?" He stood frozen, the weight of horror sinking in. Then, forcing himself to move, he reached into his pocket, pulled out his phone, and dialed frantically. "Rescue team, please," he stammered. "Please, come quickly." Miles away, an officer from the rescue team picked up the call. "Hello, officer speaking," he said, his tone calm but alert. He listened carefully as the driver explained everything, every terrifying detail. The driver's voice cracked as he pleaded, "Please come fast. She's still in there. There's still time to save her." The driver's voice trembled as he spoke into the phone. "Please come to this place immediately. A giant python has swallowed a mother lion. Please come and help her." He could barely get the words out. His heart was pounding, his hands shaking. The officer on the other end of the line listened intently, then replied in a calm, firm voice, "All right, stay away from the python. We'll be there immediately." He hung up and turned to action. The officer walked briskly through the corridor of his department, his boots echoing against the floor. Grabbing his radio, he called out to his team, "Everyone assemble now. We have an emergency. A giant python has swallowed a lioness alive. We're moving out right now." Without hesitation, his team jumped to their feet. In minutes, they were outside, gearing up for the mission. Soon after, the rescue team arrived at the jungle. The driver and the cub were already waiting nearby. As soon as the team approached, the cub ran forward, his tiny paw pointing toward the trees. "The giant python, it's over there." The officer nodded and motioned to his team. The officer and his team stepped into the clearing and stopped. The scene before them was horrifying. The python lay coiled around the tree trunk, massive and menacing, its body still bulging where the lioness had disappeared inside. The air was thick with silence, heavy, unreal. The officer looked around, eyes wide. "This is horrifying," he whispered. "I've never seen a python this big in my life." He turned to his team, his face set with determination. "We must act now, before it's too late." With that, the officers moved quickly, heading toward the armory. Weapons were being checked, loaded, and prepared. Every heartbeat a countdown to the lioness's life. They jumped out, weapons in hand, boots hitting the ground with purpose. The jungle seemed to tremble beneath their arrival. They moved quickly, spreading out through the foliage until they spotted it. The monstrous python, its thick body coiled near the tree, eyes gleaming with rage. The team raised their guns, hearts pounding. The python hissed, furious, then lunged. Shots rang out. The jungle echoed with the sound of gunfire and thunder. The python's body convulsed, then started to burst open. The massive creature collapsed with a heavy thud to the ground. The team rushed in. One rescuer pulled the cord on his chainsaw and began cutting through the thick, scaly body. Bit by bit, they worked until at last, the lioness was pulled free. Her body was limp. Rescuers lifted her carefully, holding her in his arms for a moment, then laid her gently on the ground. The cub ran to her side, his tiny cries echoing through the jungle. The driver and the cub rushed toward the mother lion and sat by her side. The cub cried softly, nuzzling her motionless face, while the driver knelt beside her, his breath quick and heavy. He could see faint movement in her chest. She was still alive. Barely. In the distance, the sound of a siren grew louder. Moments later, an ambulance came speeding through the field, its lights flashing against the trees. The doctors jumped out and pulled a stretcher from the back. One of them hurried to the lioness, gently washing the dirt and blood from her body. They lifted her carefully onto the stretcher, placed an oxygen mask over her face, and carried her into the ambulance. The doors closed, and the vehicle sped off toward the hospital, bouncing over the rough ground. Meanwhile, the rescue team stayed behind to handle the aftermath. They tied thick ropes around the python's massive body, securing it to the helicopter above. Once everything was fastened, a rescuer raised his thumb in signal, and the helicopter began to lift, dragging the giant serpent's carcass up into the sky. The cub watched, his small eyes following the rising shape until it vanished among the clouds. Later, the rescue team placed the cub in a small cage to keep him safe for transport. The driver knelt beside it, his voice trembling. "Goodbye, little lion," he whispered. "I'll miss you so much." The cub looked back through the cage bars, his eyes filled with gratitude, and the bond between man and beast lingered in the quiet air. The ambulance raced through the city streets, sirens crying out against the silence of night. Inside, doctors hovered over the mother lion, their faces tense and focused. "We need to move her quickly," one of them said. "Her vitals are dropping fast." They rushed her into the hospital's emergency ward, pushing the stretcher through the doors. Machines beeped, lights flashed, and the sound of urgency filled the room. A doctor checked the monitor and frowned. Her heartbeat was faint, barely visible on the screen. "If it doesn't return to normal in the next minute," he said quietly, "she may not survive." Another doctor began compressions while a nurse adjusted the oxygen mask. They worked quickly, desperately, trying to breathe life back into the fallen queen of the jungle. And then, a sound. A faint, steady rhythm began to pulse on the screen. The doctors looked up. The lioness took a weak breath, then another. "She's alive!" one of them shouted, his voice breaking with relief. Smiles spread through the room as the heartbeat on the monitor grew stronger, steadier. The fight for her life had been won. Outside the emergency room, the cub waited patiently with one of the rescuers. The man held a small feeder bottle, gently giving the cub milk as it rested against his arm. The bond between them was quiet, pure, two souls bound by compassion. Hours later, as dawn broke, the rescue team opened the hospital's transport cage. Inside it, the mother lion lay beside her cub. The team carefully loaded the cage onto their vehicle and began the journey back to the jungle. When they arrived, the forest was waking to a golden sunrise. They opened the cage door, and the mother lion slowly stepped out, the cub right behind her. Both paused, turning for one last look at the humans who had saved them. Their eyes held gratitude, silent, deep, unforgettable. And then they walked away, side by side, back into the wild where they belonged.